Welcome to, there we go, Friday with the Fuzz on AM 1410 WRMN. It is 7:43 here in downtown Elgin, and I kick it over to the man, the myth, the legend, Derek Cooley.
Thank you, Kyle. We're here with the Chief of Police here in the City of Elgin, Jeff Swoboda. Jeff, welcome back to the station.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we gave you last Friday off. We wanted Bill to come in. I missed Bill for
You did, yes.
Bill is always great. He's always great to come
I was
in,
able to watch it, so was that. It was actually it was fun to watch.
Yeah,
watch
so
it on Facebook.
Yeah, we missed you for this. So
Bill's a great fella.
He is. He's great. I mean, it's just like passing the torch. It was flawless. It really was a seamless transition.
There you go.
I didn't really understand why there was no difference. It's crazy to get the same person. When I just hand the ball to Bill and he'll run with it.
He ran with it. Yeah,
it's great.
Not as fast.
Yeah, not as fast. Not as fast. But he's sneaky.
That's a joke with Bill.
He's cool. We'll call him quick. He's
there
quick.
You go.
So welcome back to Friday at the Fuzz, here with Chief of Police Jeff Swoboda in the City of Elgin. So Jeff, we first kind of want to talk about, me and Bill last week, and you were able to watch, and we had kind of a discussion on, there was a crime last week where a juvenile was involved, and a juvenile with a gun especially, and we know how troubling that can be. But it also can be very troubling for victims of these types of crimes as well. So not only victims of, like, a victim of a crime with a gun, an innocent victim in the public. It can be, we talked about ways that children, juveniles, youths, in their early teens, how parents can kind of help them out and what services are available to them. But this episode, we kind of want to talk about a little bit about the other side, about, traumatic events for victims in public out of nowhere. I could be really traumatic to be held at gunpoint for something, or be your car try to be stolen, or your house being held up, or even a person trying to scam you and you realize you're being tried to scam. It's kind of a shocking experience because we hear about this kind of stuff on the news all the time, but it never really you don't think it's going to happen to you, and you're never really prepared for something like that to happen. So I know I know the Elgin Police Department has numerous amounts of ways that you can help victims. So what are some of the ways people can be helped that are victims of these types of crimes? Maybe not even a physical crime, but even psychologically. I mean, because these things can really affect people psychologically.
Yeah, it's such a broad topic, but there's so many different ways we can go with that. But I know one of the things when I was listening to it and then hearing that we were actually contacted by one of our victims, and I know you and Bill, as part of your discussion, talked about hey, what can we do for these kids, these juveniles, to make sure that they don't do this again and get on the right path, and Bill talked about the different programs that are out there and what our juvenile division does, and by no means was that meant to be that took the place of. We care more about that than the victims themselves. It's just that was kind of where we were at where you two were at with the discussion. So we were contacted by a victim. Said it's great that you do all those things for suspects and people who are arrested, but what about the people who are actually victims of crime? And so Bill wanted me to clear up, but also hearing this as well, I wanted to talk about all the things that we're doing as well within the police department. And the state has resources, the county has resources. So anybody that's been the victim of a crime. They can come down. You don't have to wait till you're a victim, but you can come down to the Elgin Police Department. We have a social service unit that walks people through a lot of things. One that we've talked about a lot here are, victims of domestic violence, we'll say. We have a unit in our social services department, works directly with all victims who have been, if the police have been called to your house for domestic violence, we'll reach out to you and make sure that, are you okay? Are there more things we can do for you? Do you need some help with some counseling or whatever? So our social service unit does a lot of that. And also we do a lot with people who are victims of, robberies or, talk with people, or many times we end up being referring people. But if your family, somebody in your family was lost, whether it's a tragic accident, a car crash, or was the victim of violence and was killed, we more so are doing more referrals with that. And, the state has programs with the Victims of Violent Crimes Act and funding that's out there to help people through some traumatic incidents. The county as well has some. So if you go to our website and you can go on our social services portion, there's a list of a variety of things that we can help you with, and then also links to other resources that can help people. Because, yeah, we do. We spend a lot of time, after a crime occurs, and we follow the suspect, and we look at, the person that was arrested, how old was they? Maybe where did they go wrong? What was going on in their life? What's going on with their upcoming court case? And we never go into, or very seldom do we go into, the actual victims who are the ones who, for the rest of their lives and their family lives, so many times relive that pain all the time, or certain triggers can kind of make them rehash what happened to them if they were a victim, especially of violent crime, or if it happened in a certain area every time they go down an area, or I know some victims, depending on where they're at with certain types of crimes, smells can bring them back. Songs on the radio. There's a lot of things that can bring people back. So I think we all need, and I think people do get that, but sometimes it might get lost in the shuffle that while we're always trying to figure out, reforms and people to make sure that they don't commit another crime again, I think we always need to make sure we recognize that the victims are the ones who didn't choose to be a part of this. Criminals are criminals, and when they choose to go and rob people and stick guns in people's faces or hurt other people, obviously, as well as paying their sentence to society as well, we need to care more for the victims themselves and make sure that they get the help and the resources they need. And hopefully after we lock up criminals that they don't come back out and commit more crimes against society, because like I said, we all suffer with that, and it's sad to see when you see people who are doing nothing but minding their own business and they become the victim of a crime. It's they're the real, obviously, quote unquote victims, and as much we can do for them, we really try to do it at the police station. Yeah.
So, and obviously, if anybody out there is having issues, if they've been a victim of a crime or in any sort of capacity, still feel that they've been victimized, you can always contact the Elgin Police Department. Always go to the Elgin Police Department, and also you have all the resources on the website.
Yeah, and I think you guys are doing a public service announcement for something that's happening this Sunday as well, right?
So. And for this Sunday, and I know you're going to be there. So we have the event, the Long Red Line. It's in cohorts with the nationwide and also the international event, 1 Billion Rising. It's for awareness for interpersonal violence and rape, and how we've seen all these stories in the news from gang rapes in India to people being sold as sex slaves, children and women, and also with the whole Bill Cosby allegations. Those are just kind of the big stories out there. But this event here in Elgin, I know you're going to be speaking there, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, and this is just about this is another way for people to kind of let the I guess kind of get the burden off your shoulders and be supported by those around you. And it's just a big support event. It's at the Centre of Elgin Heritage Ballroom from 2 to 3:30 this Sunday. And it's you bring a red cloth, and the red cloth is supposed to kind of signify, the cloth in general is supposed to kind of signify muffled voices and a burden and less freedom. But when you link together with everybody, you kind of link your cloth, you make it your own, you can crotch it, sew it, knit it, whatever, buy it, design it. Then it's supposed to be a beacon of freedom and expression and freedom from your own burdens of whatever crime or somebody else's crime. So that's also a great thing that the City of Elgin is doing, and I know since you're involved, obviously great for the Elgin Police Department as well to be a part of that kind of event.
Yeah, I've been a part of that the last few years, and it's a great program. It used to be at the library, and then I think for logistics they moved it to the center. And so it is, many times when we're talking about victims, there is sometimes shame involved depending on what the crime is, or they feel, sometimes society themselves will say, people put themselves in bad positions, and we just like to remind people, especially, the victims that, they're not the ones that, they didn't do anything wrong, and they're not the ones that should feel shame or embarrassment. And so programs like this are great because many people come out and show their support, and I know they have speakers there who have been victims of violence in the past, and I think they sometimes even shy away from the word victims and more survivors of different types of violence that's out there. And you kind of get a group of people together and with a common type of goal and making sure that people feel the support that's out there for them. I think it really energizes many people and helps make them feel maybe less, if ashamed is the right word, or embarrassed, or feel like they can't talk about it. It's just an environment where they can talk about other people who maybe have some similar experiences, or at least people are empathetic to it and want to learn more about it. So it's a great program every year. I say a few words, many other people do as well, and it's really just a time for all of us to kind of come together and make sure we do recognize that victims need support many times, and so we all need to be there for them, because with a lot of crimes that go on, it could be any of us at any time. You hear about this person just being robbed, walking out to their car and warming up their car, and all of a sudden some idiot comes up and puts a gun in their face and steals their money. I mean, that's traumatic. That's at your own house while you're warming up your car. I mean, those are the kind of things. That's why I'm very proud of our officers who work these cases very diligently, because we need to take those criminals off the street immediately and lock them up for as long as we can, because that person now, although it was just a simple robbery, that victim's going to remember that incident, obviously, and replay it in their mind, if not hundreds of times a day, and for years to come. So it definitely changes people's lives. So supporting victims, coming out and helping survivors, victims know that they're being supported is really important. So come on out Sunday. Do you have the time? I think it's at
2 to 3:30.
2 to 3:30 at the center. So stop by.
Yeah, absolutely. And also with, and we've been doing kind of the PSA for that. And also news today, and this was brought to us from the Carpentersville Police Department. It was news. They had a press release yesterday about this. There's a new phone scam, so we kind of I wanted to preface it for you, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So the Carpentersville Police Department, they're warning residents someone is attempting to scam people. What somebody did, I guess, was some woman called a resident of Carpentersville, said she was from the police department, and the phone ID also said she was from the police department. Now, how this was alleviated, I guess, was the resident was a little bit wary. The person told the person, I'm calling from the Carpentersville Police Department, you owe money, or else we'll have an arrest warrant issued for you, and we will arrest you. And then I get directions was, and this is kind of where it got fishy, the direction was go to Walmart and get a certain amount of MoneyGram, and then send it here, or we'll await further instruction.
Yeah, because the police do that.
Yeah, exactly, routinely, right? Exactly. So when the person was saying, I'm going to call the Carpentersville Police Department back and talk to them about this, that's when the charade was up, and they said, okay, we'll drop the charges, and the person hung up. But this stuff's really dangerous, especially, and we were talking beforehand with apps. I mean, with new technology, I mean, people can change their numbers. People can identify themselves as somebody completely different and have technological backup for it. So, I mean, it's really kind of scary.
Yeah, and I didn't hear about that case, but absolutely, I know Sherry Ashenbetter spends a lot of time talking about this, especially with seniors and the scams, and right now it's with the IRS that's going on out there, and websites are so easy to make now, and you can make them look exactly, official, and like you said, caller ID, and spoofing different numbers, and copying numbers, and making caller ID look like it's calling from some other place. You just can't trust it. So whoever that resident was who said, I'm not going to hang up and call the police department, kudos to them that they did exactly as they should have done. That was great. Hopefully there's some follow-up that can be done, because a lot of times with the numbers there can be some tracing. But as we all know, many times those numbers take you overseas, and if that's the case, realistically there's not going to be much of an investigation going on for some type of phone scam if it's coming out of some other country overseas. So good job for the resident who was smart enough to say, I'm not going to do that. And if it's ever fishy like that, and we dealt with this before, we're especially dealing with the police department. It doesn't mean that every time lights even behind you. If you don't trust that you're driving down a road and somebody's got some weird gumball on the top of their car that looks like they're trying to pull you over, and it doesn't look like an official police car, don't stop. I mean, we tell people that all the time. Get to a lit area. Call the police department, call 911, say, I'm on this road and I'm being stopped. I'm not sure if this is the police. We've had people do that all the time in Elgin. Really? And many times people, our dispatcher will say, yep, that's one of our officers. Pull over. And they say, okay. And, it's an official reason. They can use their cell phone for that. They're calling the police, so they're not going to be ticketed for using their cell phone. So if you're ever questionable about what a police officer is doing, or, if it's an officer in uniform right then and there, obviously you have to, listen to the officer and make sure you do things that the officer asks you to do. But afterwards, you can talk to a supervisor. You can figure out why was it done this way. There's a lot of things that people can do to make sure that, as we're going through this, and when it's, phone conversations or, phone calls that are cold telling you to go to Walmart, and just because they say they're with the police department or a police officer, question that all day long, and call the officers, call the police station back as this person did. Don't pull over if you don't trust it's a police officer pulling you over, that type of thing. I mean, we need residents to be smart, and we love that people trust us and they say, oh, there's lights behind me, I need to pull over. We've all seen, there's been many cases out there where people are now, and you can get, lights for your car very easily, install them, and we have people impersonating police officers, and unfortunately bad things happen from time to time. So we just need residents to, just use their head, be smart, and an officer will totally understand. I've had it myself where I've tried to pull somebody over, and they weren't pulling over for a long time. They weren't sure it might have been an unmarked car, and so they call the police and they make sure that I'm okay. When I come up, they want to see credentials, because I might have been in just like we call them raid jackets, which is like a windbreaker, and jeans, and so they want to know, hey, are you really a police officer? So officers don't mind that. You do it in a respectful way, and we can make sure just because someone says they're with the police, you don't always have to believe it, especially over the phone. I mean, or a website. That's something you really need to question.
Yeah, I've been telling you to go to Walmart to get money.
Exactly.
So that's a red flag right off the bat. So that was a great job by the police department to get the PSA out there, and also for the resident to kind of identify. We just want to talk a little bit. I'll also kind of round out. We've got a couple more things here. We had a shooting this past week here in Elgin. I know it's an ongoing investigation, but you got to let people know that that it's not like, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit further about. There's a shooting this week here.
Yeah, there was a shooting this weekend. I think it was at midnight. And our gang crimes unit's working on it right now. There's not a whole lot more information. I don't have the again. I was off this week. So which date was that?
I think it was Monday, technically Monday night, right
Monday
before
night.
midnight.
Midnight, yeah. And so we're still trying to work through exactly what happened, but out by a cemetery, there was a group gathering, and someone was shot, and we're working through that right now. So it's one of those ones that are, we're working through it. It's our gang unit's the one that's leading this investigation, and we'll see where it goes. But it's still under investigation right now.
Yeah. So
sorry, not a whole lot to give on it, but it's
just acknowledge, so just that there was the shooting did occur on Monday night. Also, so I know you wanted to do some shout outs here. We had an event yesterday that you wanted to talk about a little bit in some Elgin Police Department were representative there. Yeah,
just a shout out to Jerry over at the Senior Service Center. She was the queen of. They had their Valentine's Day dance, and I know Sergeant Rick Santiago was out there, Sherry Ashenbrenner was out there, Randy and Dean from South Elgin was out there. So our police department's always well represented, as is South Elgin at the senior services, and Minnie and the whole group over there always throws like the best parties. And so just wanted to say I saw some of the pictures that were put online with the senior services, and it was just looked like a great party. And I know Rick had a great time over there, and Sherry did as well. But just thanks for the senior services for all they do, and congratulations to Jerry on being the I'm not sure if she was a queen, a princess. I think Steve Thorne's going to be part of it because I saw him in the picture as well. So in like a red jumpsuit or something, really strange looking. Steve could kind of pull off.
I don't know how I get part of that wardrobe, but it's always good for something one of the year.
Yes,
and also
exactly.
you have another event coming up as well. You have an award ceremony as well.
Yeah, we have our Elgin Police Department award ceremony, and it's not just for police. We're going to also be having many citizens get awards, and it looks like I was just looking up the 23rd, I think it is. With more information next week. But community members can definitely come on out and support the police department, and congratulate. We're going to have our officers, Officer of the Year, Supervisor of the Year. A lot of people getting different awards for great cases that they've made throughout the year. And then some businesses who hosted our Coffee with a Cop. I know Commander Lally's put in many businesses for some awards. So it's just a great community event. We'll ask people to come on out and be a part of it. Steve Thorne's distracting me over here. There's a word for him. But it's going to be a great event. So we'll talk more about it next week, but that's coming up in a couple weeks. So ask the community to come out. Exactly.
All right, Chief. Well, anything else you want to mention real quick before we let you go here?
No, it's good to be back in town and excited. Yeah, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And was it Sunday? So I'm sure there'll be no violence in Elgin on that day and a lot of hugs going around. So that's good. That's what we're hoping for. Yes. So happy Valentine's Day to everyone, and we'll see everybody next Friday.
All right. Well, this has been Friday at the Fuzz here. Thanks to the Chief of Police here in the City of Elgin, Jeff Swoboda, for joining us once again. You're listening to AM 1410 WRMN here in Elgin.